Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video, we are going to discuss the fundamentals and basics of literature. So let's go on with our discussion for today. The content of our discussion will be the etymology or origin of the word literature, the functions of literature, the different literary genres and their different subgenres, and the elements of literary criticism. Though these are two topics synthesized into one video so that we can maximize our discussion and establish a continuity of these discussions. So the first one is the origin of the word literature. So basically, we all know and we are familiar that the word literature came from the Latin word which means littera or letter, which is used to indicate the recordings of events and accounts during their everyday life. So the definition of literature is generically defined as any body of written works referring to all accounts, specifically defined as written works usually done by expert authors that are superior and lasting merit, like published books and periodicals. So even though we can consider everyday writing, like students writing in their notes, taking down lectures, the more formal definition of literature will be based on the written works of authors and published books. So in order to differentiate literature from casual literature done on everyday life, this is the definition that we are going to use. Okay, so continuing our discussion, the functions of literature are as follows. So number one, it serves as a channel of expression one's emotions, feelings, or ideas. So through writing, they are able to detail all of these processes of emotions in the writing. The second one is it serves as a reflection or mirror of one's beliefs, culture, and tradition. So for every type of literature, every literary genre, for every particular country or region, it usually mirrors the experiences, specifically the everyday habits and traditions of their particular society. So it will usually entail or contain these particular or specific cultures and traditions of that particular area where the literary piece was written. The next one is it serves as a record of one's thought, experience, accessible to others. So literatures lasts a long time. So there are literary pieces that are already considered as classic, and there are literary pieces that are considered timeless, and there are literary pieces that are considered quintessential or models of other literary pieces that follows this particular order. So definitely it serves as a record of not only experiences but also the knowledge that the author wants to impart to the readers. So the next one is it amplifies one's creativity. So it brings out your skills in writing, and if you are already interested in writing, it develops your ability to write. And then in relation to this, while you are writing, it also harnesses your ability to focus, because it is not easy to write and it takes a lot of concentration to be able to organize your thoughts into writing. That's why it develops creativity and focus. And then empathy relates to the feelings of others. So this is two-way. So the author writes a particular character where the author emphasizes with the feelings of that particular character, and then when the reader discovers this character, the readers would also be able to empathize with the character written by the author. That's why it's called two-way. Okay? So from the author to the character, and then from the author to the reader. The next one is, it is a channel to discover oneself. So these are areas of the writer that is not yet discovered, and then eventually through writing, these undiscovered emotions, areas, physiological, emotional, or psychological, will eventually come out as the writer continues to write. So there are, as you see in the function of literature, there are a lot of benefits in writing. And then it gives inner peace. This is a channel to other people wherein this is the only way they can find peace or genuine peace when they are actually writing. So some find peace in reading, some find genuine peace in doing their hobbies, while in writing literature, it also gives the particular inner peace when they start composing their thoughts and writing it onto paper. After our discussion on the functions of literature, we're going to move on now to the different literary genres. Because of the limited time that we have, we are not going to give specific examples or literary works for these specific genres. So maybe we can create another video for that. But in relation to our discussion for today, the different literary genres are as follows. Reminder, there are various types of literary genres. Some may be less than this, some may be more than what I am presenting right now, but for the purpose of standardizing our discussion, we are only going to use the following. So we have drama, fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and folktale. So drama is defined as a theater play presented by a character in a story. So this means that the character may be the one speaking during the flow of the story, discussing the sequence of events that happened to that particular character. The next one is fiction, a literary work that is in the form of a prose or the ordinary form of writing, especially short stories, novels that describes imaginary events and people. So fiction refers to characters or events that are created, or in layman's term, it's not real. Okay, so these can have different sub-genres as we see in further in our discussion. And then the other one is the opposite of fiction, which is fiction. Non-fiction refers to factual, truth, based on evidence, based on data. These are events that actually happen. So in the definition, non-fiction is a literary work that is based on facts, real events, and real people. So there are historical fiction and there are factual fiction. So we are going to see again further in our discussion examples of non-fiction. And then the next one is poetry. As defined, a literary work where intensity is given to the expression of feelings, ideas, used by use of distinctive style and rhythm. So there are different styles in writing poetry, but most of the time, poetry is composed or created because of, based on the definition, intensity of expression of feelings. That's why I always remind my class or my students that most of the time, poems are created or born or written because of an extensive emotion that the writer has gone through. Okay, so I reminded them that so that they can channel their emotions, whether positive or negative, good or bad, happy or sad, through writing. So it's also a way of managing their emotions. Next is folktale. As defined, folktale is a story originating in popular culture or pop culture, typically passed on by word of mouth. So these are stories that are passed down from generations to generations by word of mouth, but most of the time this is already recorded or written, but there are still folk tales that are familiar but does not have a written literary account. Continuing, I have discussed earlier that we are going to see examples of these subgenres, but we will not be able to give specific literary pieces as examples of these subgenres. So moving on, we have the following subgenres. So we have discussed the 5 types of literary genre that we will be using for the purpose of standardizing our discussion. We have drama, fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and folktale. So under drama, we have examples but not limited to the following subgenres. Again, these are examples but are not limited to the following subgenres. Meaning, there are still a lot of subgenres that will be classified under these categories. So, again, for the purpose of this discussion, this is the most common, usual, typical genres, subgenres that we will be including in our literary genres. So, under drama, we have comedy, tragedy, plays, skits, and musical. And then under fiction, we have fantasy, folklore, romance, science fiction, and historical fiction. And then in non-fiction, which is based on evidence or facts, we have biography, autobiography, narrative, and periodicals. And then under poetry, you have lyric, dramatic, haiku, sonnets, free verse, and ABC poem. And then under folktale, you have fable, myth, fairy tale, legend, and tall tale.